I thought I did. Dealing with remote workers or managing remote workers, and I really don't like any of those words. What do you do when you have someone in your office that really doesn't want to be in the office? They would prefer to work remotely. As you can see from the graphic, remote work is actually proven to show higher productivity and engagement. And I think that's important to know. I have worked from home for the past 12 years or so, probably longer than that. I have worked from home ever since the internet had upload speeds capable of allowing me to do that, when everything started to become more on the web. And so from the late 90s, I've been working from my home, so it's been closer to 20 years. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, I'm kind of an expert at managing my. It's important. Want to work from their home or from a remote location anywhere. I mean, it could be something like this. Isn't this a great place to work? It could be, and they certainly have the technology to do that. We have gone from really requiring all of this technology to be in an office because it's too big to have anywhere else, to having everything you need in the palm of your hand, almost literally. This device, my cell phone, it's maybe 1/4 of an inch thick. This is at least as powerful as my computer, my desktop with 2 big monitors that I'm using to broadcast for you now. There's no reason anymore for most people, unless they deal with the public. That's a little bit different. Now, you can't be a retail salesperson and not be in the store, but I'm an accountant. If they're an accountant, if there's someone that works behind the scenes, I think it's important to think very deeply about why you want them in the office. In fact, why do you have an office? There's something to think about. Now, I'm currently working with someone that I like a lot, but this person doesn't really know how to deal with remote workers. And it's kind of evident over and over. Some of the people that she works with remotely do not follow direction. And that makes things much, much more difficult when you're trying to work remotely, when you're trying to allow people to work remotely, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's a little bit harder, and it's harder to build the relationships now. Harder. It's a little bit more challenging. It is far from impossible, and many times you will get better employees out of this equation. This is what I mean by that. Again, I am really kind of struggling to see why it is so important for your average office worker to be in the office, unless there is a specific reason for that. Wanting to talk to them all the time, I just don't know that that's a really good enough reason. I'm an independent contractor for everybody I work for, and I wonder sometimes, is that really a good enough reason for me to take on expenses that I would not have otherwise? And this is important. Now, my kids are teenagers, so I don't have daycare expenses, but for parents of younger children, they may have daycare expenses that they incur simply and solely because somebody thinks they should be in the office. They may also, with some of the ones that I actually do incur, now I have to eat lunch out. Or I have to plan ahead in the morning, which, let's face it, that's not going to happen. I have to eat lunch out. I have now meals that I need to pay for that I would not have had to pay for if I was here. I have wear and tear and gasoline on my car. And then there's the whole, I have to get my kids to where they have to be. So, for example, earlier today, I took my daughter to work, my 16-year-old daughter who just got her driver's license, and she got sent home early. Well, I was working in Provo, which is where she was working, and that was fine. We just she came out and said, "Mom, they don't need me," and I took her with me to work. And I really appreciate Edgemont for allowing me to do that. And then I had to drive all the way back up to Pleasant Grove to take her home. And then I had to drive all the way back south to Orem to be in the office because I was expected to be there. I am very much the type that if that's what someone expects, I will fulfill their expectations, but I keep kind of wondering, you actually get more out of workers if they are allowed to work remotely. I'll give you a little bit more of an example. Now, this particular client is in a bit of a crisis mode. They've had a lot of things happen, and I can't go into any details. They need their accounting staff almost 24/7 for a little bit. And because I could work remotely, everything they use is on the web. Everything they use is cloud-based. Every single piece of software they have. And this is the case for most employers. Everything is cloud-based today. We've gone from everything needing to be, oh, I have to put it on a server and I have to get a license, and now it's all software as a service. It's all on the cloud. So I have my cloud-based accounting software, my cloud-based approval software, and my cloud-based chat rooms, 2 of them, and I have email, and then I have another cloud-based accounting software for my other clients that don't have hundreds of entities. And then I've got, and I actually do have QuickBooks for the desktop that I purchased for myself. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, there's absolutely nothing that I have to do in the office that I cannot do from my home. Absolutely nothing. So, what do you do? How do you make sure that the remote people that you've hired are actually working? That's kind of a challenge. That's been the fear that I've talked to, the people that I talk to about this the most. This is their fear. How do I know that the people that I've hired that want to work remotely, where I can't keep my thumb on them, how do I know they're actually working? Well, here's what I want to know. Are they producing results? When you send them a request, and you can arrange that, okay, every morning at 9 o'clock, let's have, or at 1 o'clock, or or even twice a day, let's have a very quick phone call, or conference call, or Skype, where we can see each other's faces. There are so many different ways of conferencing now, and they're just as easy to set up as it is to turn around and go to the next office. So you can arrange, at a predetermined time, we're going to have, a really quick meeting over the web, and we're going to, go over really quick, did this get done? This had a time, I needed this done by noon because, let's say I have a vendor that wants to be paid. They need to be done by, they need to be paid by noon. Did it get done? Yes, I did everything on the list. Okay, here's your next list. That's how simple that is. Did they get everything done that really should have been done in a 3 to 6 hour time period? If they did, and odds are pretty good that they did. Again, people who are allowed to work from their homes, or they're allowed to set up their own environments, are actually more productive than people who are in an office. For one thing, if I'm here, sitting here, and I'm working on a client, and someone comes to my door and wants to talk. It happens once in a while. I've got most of my neighbors trained, but it does happen. If I'm in the office and someone wants to shoot the breeze, I bill for that. Did you know that? Because my feeling is I am not in my home. Therefore, you are paying me to be breathing the air in your office. Now, I do have a client that actually has legal requirements that I have to be there for at least some of the paperwork. That's the auto repair shop. I talk about them a lot. They're my absolute favorite client. And I go down there and I do the paperwork that needs to be done that really does not need to leave the office. And then I come home and I run reports. And I review their financials, and I make sure everything's reconciled. Why? Because I don't actually have to be there to do that. But I do need to be there because if I need to print checks, the checks are there. I can prepare them from home, but the checks are locked up in their office. You know, there's some things I need to be there for. There's some things I don't, and they're very, very good about saying, you know, we just need you to come in and get this filing done and enter this stuff. When you're done with that, you can go, right? And then I go and I say, well, okay, I bill them for so much every week, whether, you know, I bill them so much every week. I need to make sure that they find value in that, so I have reports I need to run and things I need to review, and I need to make sure that their accounts payable is in line and that their receivables are in line, and that I'm aware of everything, and I need to go over their financials and make sure that those are correct, and I need to check and make sure their accounts are correct. I need to make sure that their accounts are reconciled. But I can do most of that from home, and I do. Again, I do go to their office 3 days a week. It takes me 1 to 3 hours to do everything that I need to do, that I actually need to do in their office. Beyond that, I'm free to go. So I get very motivated to work very hard and very focused and not shoot the breeze. I'll talk with the owner quite a lot because he's asking me things, he's asking my opinions, he wants to know how to increase his revenues, and I have some ideas that may or may not work. I don't know, but I will give him all of my ideas. And that's something I do actually consider working. But if my daughter comes in, and this has occasionally happened, it doesn't happen all the time. If someone comes in and they just want to talk to me and it's not work related, my take on it is they're paying me to be in the office. But if I'm at home, I will clock out, I will stop my timer, and then I will talk to them, and then I will go back to work. So they're actually not, you know, I can actually sit down and say, okay, you know, I was unavailable from this time to this time because I was talking to my daughter. Because now I feel like I need to justify why I work from home, if that makes any sense. I kind of feel like it's a little convoluted. Also, when I work from home, I'm not watching the clock. Here's some things that I can do when I work from home. Now, my laundry room is right over here. My kitchen, which is a bit of a mess, is back there. When I'm working from home, I can set something to cook and take a very short break and stir it, make sure everything's okay, and I don't have to worry about getting something in the crock pot before I run out the door. I can take a 10-minute break and fold some laundry. Well, you know, you may be going, you know, I have workers that work for me, whether they're as contractors or as employees. How does that benefit me, right? It benefits you because I can take that off of my mental plate. I'm not watching the clock. Do you know how wonderful it is, and I'm speaking as a worker, to sit down and focus on what I'm doing, and then when something comes up and I go, oh man, I forgot to do laundry. I am not going to have any clothes to wear tomorrow. I can stop the clock, go start a load of laundry. It takes 2 minutes. I can come back, start my clock again, and I can focus again because now I know that that's taken care of. It's off of my mental to-do list. I read an interesting essay by the lady that wrote the book, pardon my French, Unfuck Your Habitat. And I thought it was really interesting. She talks about the mental baggage that women have. Men don't tend to have. I have yet to meet a man that has this kind of mental baggage. Of this mental to-do list, everything that needs to be done. For example, my son, Jared, is leaving for Jamboree in a few days. He's going to be going to West Virginia. It's a big deal. It's the first time he's traveled with no parent, and he's going clear across the country. We live in Utah. So I have a to-do list in my brain. Okay, it's not written down because even if I write it down, I have to remember that I wrote it down and that I have to follow it. I need to make sure he's got everything on his list. I need to make sure he's got some cash. I need to make sure that I need to make sure to fix him a big lunch that day. I need to kind of go down these things and make sure that he's got what he needs, right? He does not have this list in his head. I go in and I tell him, Jared, I need you to pack your bags for Jamboree. You're leaving in a few days. I want to make sure that if there's anything missing, we know about it now because I want you to enjoy this time. I paid a fortune for it, right? He doesn't have that mental list. I think I finally got his scout shirts where I need to sew new rank badges on it because he just got his life scout, by the way. So I need to pick those badges off and sew his new rank badges on to reflect that he is almost an eagle, and because that was part of the reason we pushed his board of review a little bit. I hope this is broadcasting well. I'm not sure it is. Looks like it. He doesn't have this mental list of, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. Another example is when I'm home, or especially when I'm not home, I'm constantly, okay, when I get home, I have to remember to make this phone call. When I get home, I have to remember that I need to shampoo the carpets. When I get home, you know what? If you're not the person in charge of the house, you don't carry this list around. And if you don't carry, that's why I kind of objected to, this is probably part of the reason I'm divorced now, to men saying, well, I want to help with the house. And I'm like, I want you to take it over. You have no idea how much energy it requires to remember all this stuff. And I'm over 40 now, so I am just like, well, you know, actually I'm 29 and I'm transageist. It's hard to remember all of this stuff that needs to be done day in and day out. Do I need another tube of toothpaste or do I have an extra one? No, wait, I have an extra one. As soon as that one's open, I got to go buy another tube because I like to have an extra tube on hand. Oh, are we out of shampoo? And did Mercedes clean out from underneath her bed? And I don't want someone to come in and help me with that. What I want them to do is I want them to take some of that, take ownership of it. Now, the reason I kind of went on and on about that is that especially women, I have yet to meet a man that does this, but I'm sure there are some. Especially women, we have this ongoing to-do list of 100 things we have to do. And for me personally, and I have found that it's the same way for a lot of people, if I am working and I stop and I go, oh, I forgot to change my sheets this morning and it's Thursday and I always change my sheets on Thursday, I can stop the clock, I can go start a load of sheets, and then I'm not worrying about, okay, when I get home I have to remember to change the sheets. Okay, so in the end, because I'm not watching the clock, I'm not anxious to clock out at 5 o'clock. I'm here. I'm where I want to be. I'm at home. So I may stop. I actually have a reminder. It says, reminds me to cook dinner because I get so engrossed in what I'm doing for work that I will forget to eat. That's part of what makes remote workers so much more effective than their office-based peers. We are here. We are where we want to be. We are doing work that we love, and we can arrange our schedules around, we can arrange our work schedule around our personal life. We can arrange our, instead of always having to arrange our personal life around our work schedule. Sometimes that's necessary. Again, one of my clients has been in crisis mode for over a month. Sometimes it's necessary for me to say, I have a client who's in a crisis. I can't do anything right now. Let me get back to you. On the other hand, it's a little bit harder for me to say, well, you know, I can't go get my hair done. I can't do the things that I want to do that actually make me productive because I'm tethered to a desk. I'm not sure if I'm explaining the mindset quite right. It is a mindset. It is a lot to do with this mindset of, you know, am I in charge of my schedule, or is someone, do I just put in the time, assuming it's a timed client? A lot of my clients don't have a time set to them. I do a certain amount of work. And if I get it done faster, then I get it done faster and it can be done. But if I sit down and really work hard at it, or if it's a longer, it's kind of the law of averages. Sometimes it takes a longer time, sometimes it takes a shorter time. So I can do it on a piece rate. I have 2 clients that actually pay me by the hour, and I don't like it. I would rather, do it by the piece. But both of them, it's a little bit harder to do that way. So I just tell them, I'm going to charge you so much a week, and you will get up to so many hours. And if I get everything done that needs to be done in less time, great for me. But you're still paying to have this work done, and I know that, at the most, it's going to take me this long. So a lot of it does have to do with just justifying the fact that I'm billing someone while I'm home. So I tend to work harder when I'm home. I'm also very used to working at home. There was a time when I very first started working from home, it was a little bit more challenging, and I treated it as if I was in an office, which was a little bit hard. At the time, my youngest was 2 and that one was 4. And they didn't always understand that Mom couldn't be available. I was actually doing call center work from home. I will never ever do that again, by the way. Which is exactly why I went into accounting, is that I can do this and they can be clamoring at me and it's not that big of a deal. It's just really nice to be able to be here and notice when my kids come and go, and notice when you'll be able to ask them, to be there at the crossroads, to be able to ask them, how was your day, and what happened with school? Do you have any homework? Would you please clean up your room? Would you please clean up your room?
Yeah, I will. Can I go to the store with us? Okay.
What are you getting?
Just something to snack on. I got $6.
Okay. Yes, be careful.
Okay, for the keys.
It's only her 2nd time driving without me in the car. Let's take this. Don't lose it.
I won't.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Function and about all the things that I need to do when I get home, I can sit down and I can even plan to, okay, I'm going to work for 45 minutes and then spend 15 minutes doing some housework. I can work around the clock like that. And by the way, it's Fly Lady or Unfuck Your Habitat or a couple of other things like that. Focus Booster, Pomodoro timers. There's a lot of ways that you can organize your work day so that you work, okay, I'm going to work 45 or 50 minutes, and then I'm going to take a 10 or 15 minute break, and during that break I'm going to go in the living room and I'm going to fold laundry so that I feel like I'm getting housework done as well. I'm going to work for 45 minutes on my paid work, and I'm going to go in the kitchen and clean for 15 minutes. And that kind of breaks up the day so that I don't feel like it's oppressive, if that's really the word. And also, I still get my housework done, except for this mess right there. That's really what I wanted to talk about today, and at this point I feel like I'm rambling. So I'm going to wish you a very happy Friday night and have a great evening.